Hey, everybody, welcome to the Master Passive Income Show. My name is Dustin Heiner, and I'm here to help you get financial independence, quit that JOB, that just over broke job, by investing in real estate. And today, I'm super pumped to bring on a fantastic real estate investing expert, somebody who's been investing for basically about as long as I have, and he invests in other ways. See, now, what's great about real estate investing, there are so many different ways to invest, and so many experts, so many other people who are experts in other ways to invest and can show you how to do this. And a good friend of mine is coming on the show today to help us to invest in real estate, but also talk about how his students are investing, talk about how my students are investing, and how we can become successful even with high interest rates, high prices, with the market and everything, and what we're seeing in the market and what we're seeing in real estate investing in general. And I have my good friend on, Seth Williams from the RE Tipster podcast. Check out his podcast, super awesome podcast. But Seth, thank you so much for being on the show, man.
Hey, Dustin. Great to talk to you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is great having you on again. So man, I think you've been on 3 or 4 times now. So
Yeah.
it's so good, catching up, number one, but
Yeah.
also seeing how you're investing and how your students are investing. So if anybody wants to go and listen to the past episodes that you talk about your story and everything, I'll probably forget to put it in the description, but you'll be able to find Seth's episode in there. Hopefully, I'll remember to put it in the description. But definitely, Seth is a good guy and helps so many people to invest in real estate and land investing. And recently, Seth, I want to talk about how you bought a piece of land and then said this could be a very, like, literally from land, from trees and dirt and all that stuff, said this could be a storage facility. It's like,
Yeah.
wow, that's brilliant. And on your YouTube channel, definitely, you got to everybody needs to check this out on the Ari Tipster YouTube channel. He literally documents it in like 6 different episodes, so detailed from beginning to end, infrastructure to building. But Seth, this seems like a monumental task, especially one that
Yeah.
you've never done before. I
Yeah.
mean, what are your thoughts about this? And like, now that you're done, what are your overall thoughts about doing this project?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great question. I'm actually been working on putting together my presentation that I'll be doing at RubeCon, where I'm going to be talking about this. And man, there were so many lessons I learned from it. And it was really kind of an adventure. And it's kind of fun to look back at everything I went through to make this happen and what information I used to make the decision to build it in the first place. And then like how the market changed while I was building it and what the world looked like when I was finished. And one thing that I keep coming back to as I'm realizing the lessons learned is how kind of risky it is to build stuff, especially something like this where it just takes time. And not only does it take time and the market can change during that time, but also it's expensive. It's a lot of money to build something brand new from scratch as opposed to just buying an existing version of that might be a little bit older. And back when I chose to do this, it was because I was kind of looking for something new, something to kind of branch out into, something to create some permanent sources of income, whereas land typically isn't that. Usually it's more of a flipping scenario. But, for me, I thought self-storage was going to be the ticket. And I had spent a couple years learning about it and found a piece of land that I could buy, and it was zoned residential. So my plan was to rezone it to commercial and then go through all the steps necessary to get the thing built. And there's a lot of steps, lots of different opportunities for things to kind of go sideways and, surprises to enter the picture. But also being like a blogger and YouTuber like you, I knew this is a great opportunity to document this and like learn a ton of stuff because I didn't see anything else out there on the internet in terms of somebody who had done precisely what I was hoping to do, like really showing every step of the way and highlighting things that I learned in that process. So yeah, it was quite an adventure. It took from the day that I bought the land to the day that we like opened for business. It was over 2 years. Finding all the different people to put the plans together and getting the zoning approvals done and getting all the different contractors involved. There's a lot to it. Have you ever built
I
anything?
remember, yeah, I remember when you bought it and you tell me about it, and you
Yeah.
were literally just getting started and
Yeah.
all the planning and everything. And I was like, man, a- and you were also telling me like the timeline. I was like, oh man, that's going to take a long time before you see any
Yeah.
money coming in.
Yeah.
But I mean, the big thing, you're going to, in my opinion, it just seems like the people that take the risk for it, they have the most reward because it's a big risk. And if it
Yeah.
plays out like you hope it's going to do, you're going to have the most reward with that. Now, I love those. So definitely, without going into all the details, but the entire process, because people, they definitely need to check out those videos. There's so They're so well done. Like it's so
Thanks.
educational,
Yeah.
and you literally see like you documented the entire process, which was
Mhm.
so fantastic. And I'm glad you mentioned that. So everybody, Seth is going to be speaking at RubeCon, the Real Estate Wealth Builders Conference here coming up. And it's our annual conference that we're having. Seth's going to be talking about everything he did, storage facilities, everything he learned. But at the same time, he's an amazing land investor. So you got to come to RubeCon to be a part of that. So check the link in the description. We'll actually give you a really good discount for coming to RubeCon. So Seth, in the storage facility, it's a totally different asset class
Yeah.
than land. Obviously, you're utilizing the land, but it's a totally
Mhm.
different asset class. What was the big like aha takeaway moment or something like that that maybe once you're all done? I mean, outside the time frame and the cost, is there anything else that maybe in your brain that said this was such a huge lesson learned?
Yeah, man, there's so many of those things. Trying to think of which one is worth highlighting. I mean, honestly, like if I could rewind the clock, or I guess if I was making the decision today whether or not I should build new or buy an existing one, I probably wouldn't build new at this point because the market has slowed down quite a bit for self storage. Back when I made the decision to build, it was darn near impossible to find deals on self storage. I mean, they were way overpriced. It was super inflated. It was a bubble that was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I don't know if I'd say it popped, but things have definitely slowed down starting in basically early 2023 as interest rates kind of went up. That affected how frequently people were moving around, which has a direct correlation to how often they need storage. So the demand for self storage and
Great
also the
point.
value of storage facilities has gone down a bit, and people's motivation to sell has ticked up a bit. So I haven't actually tried to find a whole lot of existing deals in the past couple of months, but I'm pretty sure it'd be a lot easier now than it was back then. But back when I chose to build it, it was because it was an obvious sign. Like you are not going to find anything that makes sense as an existing facility. You can build a brand new one and probably even screw it up and still make money on it. That's kind of how the picture looked back then. So yeah, just kind of, again, that's one of the inherent risks of building stuff is that things change. And when you're actually ready to start making money, are people still going to need it the same way they did back when you started to build it? Maybe not as
That's
much.
that's a great point because when you're thinking about like the economy, where things are for real estate as well as the overall economy, we've literally been booming for a very long time. In fact, with 2020, even though you had that shutdown of everything, there was a
Mhm.
dip, which we know that because when you shut down the entire, globe, you're gonna have a dip. But if you just kind of like breeze right through that, it's literally been booming for the last what 6, 7 years. In fact, the
Yeah.
last recession was back in 2010,
Mhm.
2008 to 2010 in that time frame. And
Yeah.
normally we have recessions, we have corrections in the market, real estate and economy
Mhm.
every 6 to 8 years, seven
Yeah.
usually the average. But it's been since 2008 crash. It's literally been what is that now? 15 years now
I know.
since
A
then.
long
So
time ago.
yeah, all the printing of money. So we've only seen booming economies, and you know what's kind of fun. So you and I have been investing for a long time now, which is great. As
Mhm.
well as we have also been coaching this for so long that we're seeing people coming out now coaching this stuff that have been investing for like 6 months or a year. They're like, "Hey, I'm a guru. Come follow me. Come
Yeah.
listen to me. How I'm like, that's great. I mean, in a booming economy, everybody does great. But
Yeah.
it's when you actually have a down economy that's when you really see who's actually
Yeah.
has their stuff. But what are your thoughts about the economy now? Because that was really interesting. I love that you brought up the thought of okay, now if I were to build this again, looking at the way the
Mhm.
economy is now, especially with your experience,
Mhm.
the storage facility maybe not doing that now. Not saying that's the wrong thing in general, but
Yeah.
maybe doing it differently, whatever it might be. But what are your thoughts with the general economy and with your students that you currently have that you coach as well? What are your thoughts about like what are they seeing and how are they being successful in the real estate market right now?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think in any kind of deal like that, you want to build in some margin for error. Like if things don't pan out the way that I think, like all, perfect in the end, like what if things are slower? What if I don't sell this for as much as I think I will? Like, is there any margin to protect me or am I just screwed if that happens? And so like with the self-storage facility, for example, a normal time frame for a new facility that's totally empty, a normal time frame for that to fill up is usually like 2 to 3 years. Like that's about what it's going to take. I had a feasibility study done that said that was going to happen in about 6 to 9 months, which is very, very fast. And that was one of the reasons why I was like, okay, let's build the thing. Now, in reality, it's looking more like it's going to be that 2 to 3 year time frame. So it's like it's kind of a bummer, but like we kind of knew that's normal. So it's not like we're
You're
red.
prepared.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like a disaster. It's just
Did
kind
you
of a
get your money back from that feasibility study?
yeah, of course. I should. So, but um, so that's like the storage front. But like for example, on a land deal, I actually kind of worry about some land flippers I see just because I mean, kind of like what you've said, all they've ever known is a booming economy where things are selling super fast. When I got into it, I kind of had the curse in the other direction where for me, normal was property selling super slow. Land is not worth much. People don't want land. So you better be buying that thing at like 10% of market value or you're not going to be able to sell it. So in my mind, that was normal, but has not been normal over the past 3 to 5 years. So, I see people out there, trying to do a land flip and paying 60, 70, 80% of market value, which can work as long as things are going great and continuing to go up. But if all of a sudden there's a giant correction and things go backwards, it's not going to be a great position to be stuck in. So, in admittedly, like it's kind of a weird place to be when it's like the bottom might fall out, but it probably won't, but it might. I don't know. Um, like it's hard to know how far out on a limb you should go. So, but
Well,
I mean, personally, like I try to never offer more than 50% of a property's value. And that's even that. If you had
well,
told me that in 2008, I'd be like, that's crazy. That's way too much.
Well,
So,
same here. Like we're investors. We
yeah.
don't invest to lose money and we invest to make money. And when I buy a rental property, I don't overpay for properties. I don't
Yeah.
pay for more than they're asking, let alone even asking price. And I
Mhm.
know there are some people who are investing that they would pay over because they said, hey, it's just going to appreciate in a year. It's going to go up 20%, 30%,
Mhm.
whatever it might be, because that's all I've ever known. They
Yeah.
haven't gone through the cycle where it's literally depreciating or it's going
Yeah.
cutting in half. And so, for as an investor, we need to have all these principles in place. I love teaching all my students, just like you, principles on how to do this right in every
Mhm.
economy. And I love my rental properties making me money if the market goes up, if the market goes down, or if the market goes sideways, I still make money. And the big reason why is because I know how to do it right to where if there is a problem, I have a
Mhm.
contingency of, okay, if this happens, then I have this buffer or I
Mhm.
had this, taken care of. I'm not investing for appreciation. All those sort of things come into my mind because I have people asking me, well, Dustin, interest rates are high and prices are high. How do we invest? I'm like, that's a good thought. But at the same time, like those are just, I guess, things that we have to contend with or
Mhm.
pieces to a puzzle that we have to figure out.
Yeah.
It's not the end all be all. It's not like everything's going to go bad. If it does, then we make sure that we're have everything in contingency. So with that said, what I'm doing right now with my students is really helping to see so many options that are out there. That's one
Mhm.
of the biggest things I found for my students that helps them the most. Because if I love, let's say, oh, I'll give you one example. My goal was to quit my job, be successfully unemployed, but that's not everybody's goal. Not everybody has the same risk tolerances, same
Mhm.
goals, same values, and same finances and all that sort of stuff. What are you saying with your students right now in helping them to really grab these principles, make sure that they're doing it right, but at the same time understanding their vision and their values and their goals for where they want to go and what they want to do when they're investing?
Yeah. I mean, that's huge what you just said in terms of understanding like what your own personal priorities are. It's I don't know. I kind of get a little annoyed sometimes when I just hear somebody saying like this is the one way it needs to be. Like do this or you're dumb. Just like very black and white, but it's like there's
So
just a
many
lot.
people say that stuff.
I
It's so
know.
dumb.
I
They're
know.
dumb for saying that.
But there's so many different variables to consider in terms of like you got to understand your final destination, your timeline to get there before we can really start planning out stops along the way and which path you want to take and all this stuff. But yeah, I mean, in terms of just basic fundamentals, like I think one thing that it took me a long time to understand that I try to help other people get is sort of this idea that you make your money in your business and then you preserve it in the market, not the other way around. And what I mean by that
I
is,
love that.
I see a lot of people who try to, you know, say you've got like a job paying you 60,000 bucks a year or something, and you immediately jump into buying long term buy and hold rental properties. And I think that can work, but like if you don't have some huge advantage, like being able to buy those properties at a huge steep discount, or if you have some, market knowledge or some ability to make those properties worth a lot more after you buy them, if there's not something special you're bringing to the table, it's going to take you a long time to get to where you want to go. And so that's why, running a land flipping business, it's a beautiful thing in that it's kind of a cash generating machine. It's very active though. Like it is not a passive business at all. Like it's at very least a, pretty big part-time, if not full-time thing, but it pays really well. And for me, I mean, my goal was to start there, but not stay there. Like use that as a stepping stone to create those long-term passive sources of income. But if I jump right to that from my job, like I'd still be working my job today and I'd be a long ways off from getting to where I was trying to go.
Yeah, no, I definitely see exactly your point. And with that, I love that you've jumped asset classes. Talk to me about how you did that. Now, I'll give you an example. With me, I love residential, 4 units and below. It's so
Mhm.
easy. It's like
Yeah.
I fall asleep and do it. I've done it so many times myself and coached hundreds, just like you with
Mhm.
all your students. So with that, that's like my bread and butter. But I gravitate to that so easily. But there's so many other great asset classes out there. You jumping into from land and building, that's a huge one. But then
Yeah.
storage facilities, managing that, keeping that taken care of, and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Talk to us about that shift. I mean, this is like advanced investing, really.
Yeah.
People that just want to get started, maybe they just want to flip land, maybe they just want their first rental property, whatever it might be. I personally go from residential. Now I'm in hotels and other types of, multifamily asset classes, but I
Mhm.
would love to get into residential assisted living. I'd love to do storage facilities, but I'm like, there's only so many hours in the day.
Yeah.
And with,
I know.
Rubicon, there's so much time that goes into
Yeah. I'm
Rubicon.
sure.
Oh my goodness.
I'm sure.
There's a lot of time, but it's a labor of love. With that, I love investing with experts. Like
Mhm.
I've told you before, hey Seth, next time you do your facility, if you need an investor on this one, I'll be there with you.
Yeah.
But but with that, like, what are your thoughts about switching asset classes and then getting around the experts that are going to be there that are going to help you?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's actually important to do it at some point. I mean, it's just kind of a fundamental diversifying your investments kind of thing. Like if all you ever own is land and the land market tanks or something happens to that, um, you're going to be hurting. You want to have your stuff spread out. Have some gold and silver over there. Have some stocks and bonds. Have this and that. But for me, I think self storage. It's not completely independent of land. I mean, there's definitely some correlations to that, but it's a very different kind of business. And the things that affect demand for self storage are very different than the things that affect demand for land, for example. So yeah, I think it's just a smart business move long term to get into something else, a number two and number three asset class. And I think the hard thing for me is that self storage, it's not that difficult of a business to figure out, but it's still very different from land. I had a lot of assumptions about how real estate works that were educated from my land career that were not true at all of self storage. Like this idea of buying properties for 30% of market value. I mean, that's hard to do even with land right now, but to do that with self storage is a joke. Like, don't even talk about that. Like, you got to understand that the margins are thinner, but the income is permanent, and it's also very
Well,
scalable. I mean,
but
with
now I agree with scaling too. With that though, you have to manage it continually. Like land investing,
yeah,
you buy it and sell it, or you have it on a note where people pay you over
mhm,
time, get a more passive income out of that, which is great too. But now you're getting to an asset class where you actually have to manage it. Now
yeah,
I'll lead into where I'm going. You actually start a neighbor, not neighbor, competitor, another storage facility said,
mhm,
"Hey, I see you build this. Let's partner together on it." Talk to me about that because
yeah,
that's I I find the more people that I connect with, that number one, I have to enjoy being around them. I have to like trust them and all that sort of
yeah,
stuff. But if they're a great fit and then connecting with them, then we have like maybe economies of scales or a synergy, but like it works out so much better. We don't make 100% of the profit, but at the same time, we're not doing 100% of the work. So
mhm,
with that, talk to me about you now instead of you had been just, owner operator, I guess.
mhm,
And then now you have now changed it to where now you have somebody else helping you and the vision for doing that because I'm thinking, well, you're giving up your equity, you're giving up your property, but at the same time,
mhm,
you're not. But tell me
mhm.
about that. How'd that work out?
Yeah. So it's a great question. When I got into this, my intent was to own and operate this thing 100% by myself. Like I didn't want any partners. I didn't want somebody else having their hands in the pot and that kind of thing. Um, and that was really what I intended to do, knowing that the property management, it would take something like maybe 5 or 10 at the most hours a week. But that was something I could do. But it's probably like halfway through construction, this local competitor reached out. We got connected through a mutual friend, and um, he's like, "Hey, can I just like buy you out right now? Like just buy it today, and I'll finish building it, and then I'll." And I was like, "It's like wow. I mean, I appreciate it, but like I kind of want to try this. I don't want to just like run before I've even finished. Like I want to, experience this a little bit and see if I actually like it or not." It's like, okay, what if we partnered with you? What if we came in and me and my partners will own 25%. I'll manage it along with my other 2 facilities in the area. I've already got the whole team in place, the whole system, the website, all that stuff. And then you can own 75% and just kind of collect cash each month. And I was like, that actually sounds awesome.
This sounds amazing.
And yeah, and honestly, like I feel like this guy is a gift from God. Like he is somebody that I needed that I didn't know I needed when I got started. I mean, aside from just handling the management and all this stuff, he's got lots of great ideas. He's got ideas that I never would have had on my own. And like as I look around and look at other opportunities, like I don't even really want to buy anything else unless he's going to be involved with it. And this was a stranger, a year ago, and it's just I don't know. And this is actually coming from somebody like I'm kind of not a huge fan of partnering with people. I've done it a handful of times and it usually hasn't gone well. So I've kind of a chip on my shoulder against it. But like this just worked so well. Like I don't even get that's why I say it's got to be a God thing. I don't know why else this would happen so easily. It just worked. So I don't know if I'll always get that lucky in life, but it worked out really well here. And it's yeah, I guess the lesson from it is just be willing to be flexible and change while the vehicle is still moving. Like, you don't have to have it all figured out. If something makes sense halfway through it, like be willing to entertain that. So,
I love the idea of being flexible, being able to. I learned this term in college. So I was going to college business school. They said, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to tolerate ambiguity, which is
mm,
basically a fancy way of saying be flexible, being able like you don't know exactly what's going to happen, be able to
yeah,
move and shift. And I found being a real estate investor, what it really comes down to is that we are problem solvers. There's a
mhm,
problem that comes in front of us. Let's say, oh man, this is too much work on my hands. You didn't get to this point, but just in general, let's say this management property is too much work on my hands. I need to figure out how to where it's not on my
mhm,
hands anymore, so that it's
yeah,
somebody else's, but I still own it. And I love the idea that you were open to the possibility of just talking to somebody. You have no clue what's going to happen. That's
yeah,
why whenever anybody suggests, "Hey, Dustin, you need to meet this person," usually I say, great, let's do it. I'll give them one meeting. I'll give them one meeting. Just you never know what could
mhm,
happen, and I might be able to help them. They might be able to help me. Whatever it might be. It might
yeah,
be this is an awesome person. I just like hanging out with that person.
yeah,
I'll do it at least one time. Then, if after that meeting it doesn't, it's just not a right fit, then we can move on.
yeah,
But being open and also being flexible, which is great. Now, I am just like you. Like it, I've had a couple partnerships in my lifetime, and usually it comes out where I'm doing almost 100% of the work, but then
mhm,
I get literally half the profits
yeah.
and I get 100% of the liability
Oh,
because
it's the
they're going to go
worst.
after both of us.
Mhm,
So, with that, I never wanted to partner. Now, honestly, I don't think I will ever do a partnership like, let's say, hey, Seth, you and I, let's start a company, let's build this company.
mhm,
No, I wouldn't do that. But if I did have something where I had a business where I had employees, well, you're kind of partnering, you're paying them in a
mhm,
sense, but you could also fire them. But let's say in this case, a property that you had was making money, giving them ownership. So now they are going to be really adamant about making sure that it works out well. And
yeah,
they have the opportunity to make sure that it's making money, taken care of on their end. With that, you are actually going to be able to profit very well. So,
mhm.
with that, I really appreciate it. Any other lessons that you've learned throughout this entire process?
On that whole partnering thing, so one other thing, back when I started this, I was talking to a couple different people about chipping in like 100 grand and just doing like a unsecured note where I would pay him back with interest and that kind of thing. And I had my attorney and my CPA review it, and both of them were like, "This isn't really that good of a deal. Like, if you need
Huh,
money, like I'll give you money. Like I got 100 grand, I can give you right now."
wow.
And something that kind of occurred to me and that they sort of told me is like, when you're borrowing money from these people, like it's not just about the money. Like make them bring some kind of expertise to the table. Like, are
Mm,
you going to bring
yeah,
tenants? Are you going to manage it? Are you going to give me a discount on construction? Like partner with your general contractor, because then you can actually like get some kind of actual benefit instead of just money, like get a discount on stuff. And so this guy I'm partnering with, he's bringing a ton of value to the table, and it's not just money, it's he's managing the thing, and he actually knows what he's doing because he's doing this for other places too. So um
that's a terrific point because that
yeah,
honestly that gets me thinking of. So I like my kids and I like watching the TV show Shark Tank,
yeah.
and the reason why we like it is because you get plenty of ideas, you see how
Mhm,
businesses work and all that sort of stuff and valuations. But what
mhm,
you also see is that they get the money, but they're really not just going to Shark Tank for money. Money's going to be helpful in their
mhm,
business, but they're wanting the shark or whoever the businessman or woman is in there to actively do something for their business. So they're buying
mm,
in
yeah,
and they're also getting
yeah,
return where and a lot of like honestly the sharks say, you know what, I have the money, but this is so much time that I'm going to have to put in it. I don't have the time to do this, or I
mhm,
don't see the value in my time being here, so I'm not going to do it. So
yeah.
I love that thought. Now you have that. Now with that, is there, like, let's say RE tipster being, you're coaching people in land with that. Is that something you would ever, is it just real estate? Because I'm thinking just real estate. That's the only thing I would ever really do, but who knows?
Mhm.
I might be able to bring somebody on. Let's say they're a really strategic partner. Any other lessons that you've learned through that process that might be in overall business?
Yeah, there probably are, but they're not coming to mind right now. I feel like I'd have to kind of get in a role and talk about like step by step everything that happened to kind of jog my memory. But
Yeah.
I think
No,
those are
I get
kind
it.
of the big ones.
Yeah, same here. Like for master passive income, just it's just me and my wife.
Mhm.
It's just us. Who knows? Maybe RA Tipster gets bigger than bigger pockets. That we all know that that's a big company. They
Probably not, but we'll
sold
see.
and yeah, they're a big company. But anyways, that's something that's like I just like being like I quit my job, so I didn't have to
Mhm.
have a big organization. I didn't have to answer to. I could literally have nothing on my schedule all day and be extremely excited about. Man, I don't have anything to do because that's
Yeah,
why I quit my job.
yeah.
So, anything for you in your real estate investing that you're seeing right now that our listeners can take advantage of? Meaning, like, hey, interest rates. This is a tip that you can use, or how to invest in land, something like that.
Yeah. Well, I do think the demand for land is not going away anytime soon, as is the demand for housing. I've actually heard a number of people saying that if interest rates go down as we get closer to the presidential election, there's going to be a buying frenzy because there's still a lot of pent up demand for housing, and with that goes land. So I wouldn't be afraid to buy stuff at this point. I don't think we're going to be crashing anytime soon. I mean, who knows if we do, egg on my face, but I think there's still plenty of good times ahead in terms of opportunity to buy land at a good price and make a good profit on it.
I totally agree with you, especially like you hit the nail on the head with the election coming up.
Yeah.
The incumbent, anytime, whoever it is, they
Hmm.
never want the economy to go south, and they're the ones that control the Fed. In a sense,
Yeah.
they're not
Hmm.
technically doesn't control, but anyways,
Yeah.
we're not going to get into all that. But we know that they don't want the economy to look bad because then they're going to say, "Oh, the economy's bad."
Hmm.
What's it? The reform candidate would come in and say, "Hey, this economy's bad. Let's go ahead and go with me because I'm going to help." They're not going to want that. So I really don't think anything bad is going to happen for another. That's at least until after the election. Like
Yeah.
that's my opinion. Because
Hmm.
once election's over, then they're elected in office. Okay, let's
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's actually, I'm really interested to hear what Marco Santarelli says this year about the whole state of the market update. I found his presentation last year so enlightening, just talking about like he really just made it clear like there's still a lot of pent up demand for housing with millennials that are still living with their parents and that kind of thing. And I'm interested to see what he's going to say about that this year.
And you know what's funny? So he came in 2022, our first year at RubeCon. Marco's a good friend of mine. And so I called him up and said, "Hey, Marco, I want you to come and speak." And he did the keynote where he literally laid out, like, you need to be investing now. Don't think it's going to stop and all that sort of stuff. And then 2023, exact same thing happened. I'm like, Marco, you sure be saying this? Because it seemed like the economies would crash, but it didn't. It's still going.
Yeah.
But here's to when you, and I'm super looking forward to his talk because everybody literally said, "Man, Marco's talk was just so eye opening." The
Hmm.
numbers. He is very analytical and he
Yeah.
knows all this stuff because he is all over the country investing. But
Hmm.
here's the best thing for all of us, everybody listening, all your students, all my students, everybody listening. You do not wait to buy real estate. You buy real estate and then you wait.
Mhm.
Over time, it just goes up in value. It just goes, I mean, just inflation alone, let alone the market value itself. And if you do it right, and you're around gurus that are telling you how to do it wrong, then you might do it wrong. But if you're around people who are actually investors that are telling you, hey, this is the way to do it. Like I started investing in 2006. 2008, the crash happened. I made more money because I was doing it the right way, which is in cash
Mhm.
flow. So if you have the right people showing you how to do it and you actually do it the right way, if the market goes up, down, or sideways, we're still going to make money. So, man,
Mhm.
Seth, so anything else that you're seeing for the storage facility? Because you're going to be talking about that and talking about land all the way to storage facility at Rubicon.
Mhm.
Give us a little bit more about like what insights that from the land and even just the building process. Anything else that we're going to be able to take away and want to come to Rubicon to listen to you and your talk?
Yeah. Well, I do think something that's been happening in the land flipping business over the past few years is it's getting more competitive. And kind of as I mentioned earlier, like people are paying higher and higher prices for vacant land, higher than I've ever thought was going to be possible. But part of the reason why they're able to do that and still make money on it is because they're not just doing nothing to the land. Like they buy it and maybe they'll subdivide it, or maybe they'll improve it, or maybe they'll change the zoning. Maybe they'll build a storage facility like I did, something to make it worth a lot more than what they paid for it. It almost kind of turns into like a house flip situation, but on a larger scale, just with land and kind of a lot more paper, that kind of thing. But it's a skill that's very helpful to know, even if you don't use it all the time. Just understanding like there is an option here to take this vacant lot and make it worth a lot more if I'm willing to take a few extra steps. And it actually gets into like a different business model altogether from land flipping, because you're not just doing nothing anymore and you are willing to pay more than you otherwise would. But still, it's useful to know that. And the self-storage facility, that's just one of many different plays you can do to make that happen. So
I
yeah.
think also not just that you have they're improving the land. I just think in a booming economy, everything is going to go up, especially when there's such cheap money
Hmm.
back before interest rates got to 6 and 7%. That's
Hmm.
cheap money, which
Yeah.
makes everything go up. So if people have more money in their pockets, they're like, I don't want to, but I'll go ahead and pay more. Like the loaf of
Hmm.
bread, it's normally what, $1.50. Well, it's $2 now. Well, I
Hmm.
don't really have to, but I have a little bit more money. Let me go ahead and pay for that. And so just as we have the economy, inflation going up, interest rates going up, it just seems like everybody's so bred into thinking it's always going to be rosy. Which I'm not
Hmm.
saying everything's going to be crashing tomorrow or even next year or two. I thought it was going to crash back in 2008. Right?
Yeah.
Like I was going to crash a long time ago, but
Hmm.
it hasn't. And so what we look at is we just need to make sure we're doing it right from the very first time. When you buy that property, my suggestion is you're making passive income every single month if it's a single family home, residential.
Hmm.
So you're making money every single month. If you're doing your land, you want to buy it for less than it's worth because you
Hmm.
don't want to get stuck holding it at the highest dollar amount. And you're like,
Yeah.
oh man, I wish I would have sold it or not bought that property.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed.
So cool, man. Seth, I want people to check out RE Tipster. You have a fantastic site. I mean, so much information. Like you think about like my site has a lot of information. Yours has so much more. But how can people reach out to you if they want to work with you, learn about land investing, and connect with you? You have RE Tipster podcast. Everybody should check that out. But how
Sure.
else can people work out and connect with you?
Yeah. So I'm on Facebook, probably most of anything, that and YouTube. So you can just search for RE Tipster, really on any social media platform, but Facebook and YouTube are kind of the ones where I spend most of my time. And or you can just go to the retipster.com, scroll to the bottom, and there's a little contact button, and you can click on that and send me an email that way too. So yeah, happy to talk to you.
Awesome, man. Hey, Seth, good hanging out with you again, buddy. And
Yeah,
I'm looking
likewise.
forward to RubeCon this year.
Me too. Thanks, Dustin.